everyone, and welcome to Wild Moments brought to you by explore.org. And that's not the only thing explore.org is giving us today. They're also giving us Mike. How's it going, Mike?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am sick and cold, but I have some tea to keep me company. How about you? Water as usual?
Yeah, water as usual. I must admit though, I was doing a little bit of gardening, and I have a bed of mint, and I had to pull up some runners so they didn't spread too far. And I did make some tea out of that, and I drank cold mint tea on a hot day recently. That was nice.
That sounds very refreshing. Actually, this tea that sorry everyone, this is also mine and Mike's time to catch up. I tried a different tea today. Uh, it's Albanian mountain tea. I mean, when I was in Albania, I bought this tea. It looked suspicious, but I decided to try it, and it's quite nice. So there you go, everybody. Try some Albanian mountain tea. And of course, if you'd like to let us know what tea you're drinking or however else you're enjoying the show, we are live and interactive. So keep sending through those questions and those comments as we go through the best clips of the week. What are you expecting, Mike?
Well, I think we're in for some pretty interesting clips, but nothing too dramatic or sad, I guess, if anything that's going to, provoke,
Yeah.
some real, strong emotions in us. So I'm kind of looking forward to this, a little bit of a pick me up
Yeah,
today.
in the I'm so happy if we could give you a little pick me up. The last couple weeks that I've been doing the shows, especially the Wild Moments shows, we've been having so many clips that are almost unexplainable. There's just some really awesome behavior that we haven't seen, or especially different animals interacting for which we didn't have an explanation. I think we had a couple weeks ago a show like that as well, when you said that if we want to look for a way to explain behavior away, we'll find it. But sometimes animals just do things.
That's right. Yeah, and it's I'm sure most of the people watching know it's also bear cam season on Exploded.org. So, I've been spending a ton of time watching the brown bears fishing for salmon in Katmai in Alaska. And yeah, some of the bears are doing stuff. You're just like, I don't know. I think the bear just wanted to do that. That's basically like my best answer for some of the things we've seen.
Exactly. And it's kind of exciting, right? Because it gets your brain juices all flowing again, trying to figure out what's going on. Do you have any examples for us?
Well, last night there was a mother bear. Her cub climbed a tree, and then she decided just to climb the tree. She's a pretty defensive, and dominant female bear, so that's not her MO to like kind of climb trees. I don't know
Yeah.
if she just felt like it. I mean, it didn't look like she was necessarily under a direct threat in that moment. So I kind of wonder, hey, she just had a little bit of time on her hands. Her cub was up in the tree. There are other bears around, so certainly that probably influenced that. But yeah, she was up in the tree as well. So it didn't really match her typical behavior. If she's threatened, she's usually in another bear's face, roughing them up. So she really just she bulldozes other bears quite often. So she was up in the tree, and I kind of wonder if she was just doing that because she just kind of felt like it in the moment, not necessarily because she was stressed out or anything.
Yeah. She sounds very cool. I like her.
You would like her. You would like Grazer.
Does she have a name?
Yeah, Grazer's her nickname.
Great.
Yeah, her identification number is number 128, but most of us call her Grazer.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna check out the cams because you said it's the time to look at the cameras now, right? It's out, it's summer, everyone's gonna be fishing, there's gonna be a lot of activity on those bear cams.
Yes, yes. Although I don't have bears behind me on my screen. I wanted to make sure to remind people to watch the Stony Point penguin chicks. So, because they're getting pretty old, I think we only have maybe a couple weeks with them or something like that at most.
Yeah, so on Tuesday when we had the Africam show, we were waiting for them to make an appearance, and of course they didn't want to. But it's amazing how quickly these chicks will grow up, and before you know it, they're starting to molt and they're getting their first version of the adult type plumage. So very good to remind everyone to keep an eye on that camera. So we've got the hellos. Oh, so many. MG Leopard Spots, you say hi all. Can't wait for the show. Just ice water currently. That means that you are in my and Mike's sphere. We like water, just plain old water. Sometimes it might be iced, sometimes it might be minted. Bridget McKenney says hi to us. Cindy says good morning from Pennsylvania. W. Bouchard says good morning from Toronto. Amber Coe is waving hello as usual and sends her thanks to everybody involved in the show. Karu says hi, and Karu's got milk. No surprises there. Dear NC says good morning. I'm so sleepy this morning. Definitely need a cup of coffee for the show. Well, hopefully the sightings will wake you up. Asanegro says hello to all of us, and so does Jan Powers. April Al says good morning to everyone from Akula, Connecticut, with your cherry iced tea and fresh blueberries. Zygote says my favorite tea is made from goat milk. Zygote, I must draw the line with you right there. I feel like goat milk, goat cheese tastes like the goat smells. Does that make sense?
I do like goat cheese, so
Do
I will
you?
disagree with you there. Yeah, I like the tang.
Mike, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be able to do another show together after this
That's it.
revolution.
Well, I don't, yeah, this is it. We're breaking up
We're
on
breaking
camera.
up, everyone. The goat milk has done it. And Casper's Third Ghost says, hello, Trish and Mike, and everyone. Iced tea, lemon iced tea, and ready for the show. Okay, since you're all ready for the show, let's jump straight in. We're going to head over to one of the new Explore cameras at the Boteti River in Botswana, and this one's called Camelthorn. And it was actually positioned in this spot because it's a migratory route for the zebras in this area. Actually, before we get into the clip, it's kind of a cool little thing to talk about because when we think about migrations here in Africa, you think about the Great Migration in Kenya, in Kenya and Tanzania, right? Of the wildebeest migration. But the wildebeest and zebras are migratory species, and there used to be migrations in southern Africa as well. But the creation of infrastructure, reserves that were fenced, things like that, changed the patterns of those animals, and the landscape started to change as well. In many reserves, there were artificial dams and water holes, which meant that animals didn't really have to migrate as much. And so that caused a bit of disruption. But in this area where the Camelthorn camera is placed, there is still a significant migration that happens kind of like from Chobe, and then a little further south down to the Boteti River in Botswana, and then back again. So that's what the camera was for, to capture this really cool migration that's lesser known. But instead, it's been capturing a whole lot of other unusual stuff. So let's head over and see what it's got for us this week. Oh, this is so interesting. So that's an impala, obviously, and that little thing is a slender mongoose. And they are so shy and so difficult to get on camera, so difficult to get more than a second glimpse of them if you're out in the wild. And they're definitely not the social type. Doesn't it almost look like it's using the shade of the impala?
Yeah, I was wondering that. It also seems to do impala have maybe scent glands?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's got those.
okay, yeah, on their lower legs, and it seems to be
Yep.
interested in that location too.
Yeah, absolutely. Those glands at the back, excuse me, at the back there are fetlock glands, just like you get on horses.
Yeah, like it's going to those
Yeah,
repeatedly, but also, yeah, making use of the shadow. Like it doesn't want to be out in the open.
That is again one of those things I've never seen something like that. I could never even have thought that situation up. It
Yeah, again, to me, it seems like there was something odorous that the mongoose was really interested in that moment, and I don't know what. I mean, the test would be to maybe get some secretions from the glands and see how the mongoose reacts to it in the future. But this is one of those things in the wild, you're just like scratching your head, like, looks
was
this way, but maybe not. I don't know.
But I think that that's also an excellent because this is what I think about as well when I see these weird things. I'm like, oh, if I could just test it, I could
Yes.
just get a little bit of this, and then we could see if there's some kind of correlation. But because those scent glands that the impalas have on the back of their legs there, it's kind of a mystery as to what their use is. We think that it's definitely a scent gland, but it might be associated, or the strongest evidence says it's associated with kind of regrouping with your herd. If a predator comes through and scatters the herd, then it helps them to regroup and kind of like a scent trail that they keep as they run away. But I mean, it could be that that scent is similar to a mongoose in heat. I mean, that would be amazing to test those kinds of things.
Yeah, there's a lot of accidents in nature like that. For instance, one in North America that I can think of is it's not a pleasant accident for people, but the plants known as poison ivy, they cause a severe dermatitis on a lot of most people, really itchy. It's a painful rash, but most other animals don't deal with that at all. It's just sort of an accident of the chemical nature of that plant. Birds, in fact, love the berries of poison ivy. So sometimes you get things like that where it's, something evolved in one animal and then it's just kind of attracts the attention of another animal. And over time, maybe you have more I guess more I don't exactly know how to say it, but those can lead to evolutionary relationships in the future. I think that's how a lot of these things evolve. It's not, sort of some purpose. Like originally, it was just sort of an accident that happened over time.
Yeah. And so many things start off that way. And so when we try to explain why this certain feature may be, sometimes it's just because it did nothing bad to that animal or surrounding animals, so they just stick around. Um,
Right.
in the future, it could become part of um, their defense or the way that they attract each other. Who knows? But I can definitely say I've not ever seen a mongoose attracted to an impala's fetlock glands ever before.
We did get a question about this. JJ was wondering why was the impala not bothered? Do you have an idea about the impala's behavior there and being so relaxed?
No, I was actually surprised about it because impalas tend to be very reactive. And for obvious reason, they're like, the number one prey species out there in the bush for a variety of different predators. So I was quite surprised at how relaxed it was. But I also wondered whether it actually was able to see the mongoose. The mongoose, it's not as if they have excellent color vision, and the mongoose was stepping in the shadow quite a bit, and they don't have excellent depth perception either. So perhaps the impala didn't really notice the mongoose.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't actually considered that. I think again, not knowing much about impalas or mongoose, really nothing at all. It just seems like this situation would be highly unlikely that they had experienced this before, especially those two individuals in the same way, and they become habituated to one another. Like that's a possible explanation. I would just see that to be highly unlikely.
Yep. Yeah, and we also think about impalas are super reactive and super alert, but there's a general band of shape and size that they're looking for in that reactiveness. And a little mongoose on the ground is not something that would cause alarm.
Okay, so maybe it was just below
I
the
just
threshold, yeah, the alarm threshold
yeah.
for the impala.
But I think this might I think I'm leaning towards this more being a vision kind of thing. Because that if their eyes are placed on either side of the head, just like cattle, so they have this uh large field of view, but bad depth perception, don't have a great idea of what's going down on near their feet. So I think it might be a vision thing.
Hmm, fascinating. Well, look for it. Well, hopefully our camp viewers can spot something like that again. If we see a pattern, then that's a different story, and then we'll have to, I think, investigate that further.
Absolutely. And that's the wonderful thing about the cameras. So, Zygote says, when you don't know, you don't know, and that is so true. And W. Balgin said, it's so cute. It is very cute. So Kathy was asking if Grazer won the Fat Bear contest in the past.
Yeah, she did last year and in 2023. So she's the first female to win back-to-back Fat Bear Week titles. She could win a third too, who knows? But it's really right now it's skinny bear season. They haven't shed their fur yet. So some of them look pretty plump and some of them are pretty plump. But yeah, if they were to get real wet and shed their fur, we would see them looking a lot they would look a lot leaner than what we perceive them to be.
Yeah. This is so unrelated, but I was watching one of these weird shows, the kind of like mysteries explained kind of thing that they used to be on in the 90s quite a lot. Um, and they were doing this, trying to solve the like werewolves and the sightings of werewolves. And one of the things that came up is skinny bears that have just come out of hibernation who may have mange could look very much like what people claim to
Yeah.
see werewolves. So if you see something weird on the camera there, it could just
Well, yeah, I think that's a valid idea explanation for a lot of the so-called cryptid animals that people see in North America. I think are probably just like a coyote with mange, a wolf with mange, especially a bear with mange. I mean, they look really weird, like a monster, and that's I think why people are like, "What the heck is this thing?" So
yeah.
we can talk about that more in a different show. So if you have any African cryptids, you got any like dinosaurs lurking in the rainforest or something, let me know. So,
No, our our cryptids. I mean, there's just so many other dangers in the bush, right? I don't think we have
okay.
time for anything else. But yeah, stay tuned for me and Mike's Discover the Unknown in North America.
Right. Let's do it.
Okay. So, Bridget also says that she's going with the smell idea from the mongoose. Nice. So does Kirst. Well, I guess we'll just have to test it, or you can all see if it happens again, which would be amazing if there's a pattern. But let us head over to another sighting, this time also at Camelthorn. It's just been giving. And also interesting interaction between two animals that I would have not expected to interact. So,
Hmm.
so far, this is pretty normal, just sharing space. Oh,
Don't do it, big guy. It'll be a
yeah.
mistake. To me, hippos seem to be one of those animals that express a lot of curiosity when they're sort of engaged with another animal. They're like, how far can I take this?
I
I don't know if that's an accurate impression or not. That's one that I've gotten from just watching clips like this and others on our webcams.
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's obviously in adults it's a lot less because adults are not wasting time anymore. But with youngsters, you see it a lot. They'll, it's sort of like, poking somebody until they snap back. Hippos are really good at that, just kind of following. And I think this was absolutely just curiosity.
And can you tell us a little bit more about like the relative size of those different animals? I think the African porcupines are much bigger than the ones we know in North America, or at least I know. But what about the hippo? Can you tell anything based on its
Um,
relative size to the porcupine and its rough age?
so that hippo looks pretty young. If we think about a hippo at birth is about uh, uh, up to 50 kgs. So let's assume it was 50 kgs at birth. And it looks like it's about 4 months old. So it's not terribly young. I'd say 4 to 6 months, but that's still about maybe 200
Okay.
kg. Yeah. So pretty hefty. And you compare that to these Cape porcupines, which I mean, pretty much in like the 7 to 9 kg range, potentially a little bit more. But they look bigger because obviously
Right.
their calls make them look bigger. Um, but no chance for the porcupine if that hippo decided to sit on it, for example. It would be
Well, it'd be one of those lessons that a hippo would learn. It would never do it again. That sort of thing. It looks like the quills on the porcupines are immense for its size overall, and I think that maybe just because of the threats that they have to deal with. Do you have an estimate on how long those quills on its sort of its
Um,
back and rump area are?
so are the quills on the side and towards the inner bits of their belly are obviously shorter, and then the ones on the crest area, I would say I've held in my hand quills that are about 30 centimeters long.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty big, but those would be the handful that are at the tallest point. But
Hmm.
on average, I would say they're more like 15 to 20 centimeters. But it's still huge, right? That's a imagine getting that through your paw or through your hippo skin.
Yeah, I think it would they have a reputation, that precedes them. I think a lot of animals kind of realize, even if they haven't experienced them before, hey, this is something that I want to think twice about. So, um, yeah, that's porcupines are well armed. It's one of those animals that you look at and you think that's an effective strategy, and you wonder why other mammals just haven't stumbled upon
Yeah,
that solution to predation.
it is a very effective strategy. And JJ was asking, aren't hippo skin tough? Would a quill be able to stab the skin? Hippos do have thick skin, but they have very delicate skin. So the actual layers of skin are like the two layers at the top are quite thin, which is why they desiccate or dehydrate very easily, and they can crack and break. So it's thick, but not exactly tough. And so that quill so easily, if you've ever had held a porcupine quill, the tip is so fine, like a needle. It's not the whole quill, but that very tip. So they can poke in quickly and effectively. And I can't say there's any animal I've seen who has had an interaction with a porcupine whose skin just kind of didn't, it couldn't penetrate. That's never been the case. So those very thin ends can easily get into the skin of pretty much any animal. And I think the only saving grace is that if you have a dense packing of fur, that might help you out, but hippos don't have that. So that's definitely going to go into the skin.
And the quills are barbed too on a microscopic level. You can't see them with the naked eye, but you can if you pick up a porcupine quill and feel it, if you rub
Yeah.
like your fingers from the bottom to the tip of the quill, you can feel a roughness to it, and that
Yeah.
actually helps the quill to sink into the flesh of whatever animal it happens to be attached to. So it's another means for the porcupine to teach a lesson, so to
Yeah.
speak, for that predator or animal.
And if those quills get caught on an animal, it's not going to cause a lot of damage if it's just getting caught. It's not like, for example, if you see leopards trying to catch porcupines, quills are going right through their paws because they're putting pressure, right, and pushing it through. But just getting the porcupine quill attached to your skin is not it's not going to cause a whole lot of damage. But imagine you've never had a porcupine quill on you, and now this thing it's given you a shock and a prick, and it's attached to you now, and you're going to try and take it out. It's a really effective means of protecting yourself because you've scared and distracted a predator.
Yeah, they're an animal I think that demands respect
Yes.
from other animals and from people as well. In hippos too, they're one of the we can anthropomorphize the appearance of a hippo and be like, oh, look how cute it is, but they also are an animal that demands our respect. So cool. That was a really cool interaction to see them too. The
Absolutely.
curiosity expressed by the hippo, and then the porcupine being not quite indifferent, but just being like, look, I don't want to be bothered right now.
Yeah, and also somewhat tolerant in a way, or not aggressive or defensive, just kind of like, okay, I'm not into this. Can we stop? One thing I did want to bring up as we were chatting about the barbs, because W. Bouchard said that he's heard that these porcupine quills don't have barbs on them like the North American ones
Oh,
do.
interesting. Okay.
You're right, W. Bouchard, but the North American porcupines have a very obvious backward facing barb. And the porcupine quills that we have here in Southern Africa, if you touch them, you will still feel some ridging. So that still helps the porcupine, the quill to attach, but we don't call them barbs because they're not obvious barbs like you see in the North American porcupines. But you
Oh,
will
cool.
feel
Okay.
still some, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that
And that
information. I
ridging,
did not know that.
yeah. And the ridging has the same sort of purpose. It creates more surface area and make sure that we can get it stuck in there just a little bit. And as usual, we are running out of time. And is my internet not working? Can
You're
you
here
hear
with me.
me?
Yep,
Can you hear me?
I can hear
Yes?
you. Yep.
Okay, okay, all good. Okay, let's head over to the next sighting then. And this is at Hwange, and we're gonna have a look at one of my favorite little cats, actually. This is not the cat. This is a scrub hair, everyone. Oh, there we go. So that on the right, that's an African wildcat. Oh, they're
Oh,
so
wow.
sweet.
Unsuccessful, evidently.
Shame. But very sweet. Oh, I say sweet, but they're very elusive, very effective predators. And I hardly ever see them. Might catch a glimpse of them. I think in my lifetime in the bush, I've seen an African wildcat 4 times, ever.
And are these the the ancestors of our domestic house cats? Not
Um,
maybe the ones from Southern Africa, but I. from northern Africa?
So the ancestors of our domestic cats are wild cats from Europe,
Oh, okay.
and African wild cats are very closely related to those European wild cats.
Okay.
Yeah. So they look very similar to normal house cats. They're quite a little bit taller. I think they're about 3 to 5 uh kilograms, so not huge, but the posture is a little bit different to a house cat. And one of the things that we also look out for is the coloration. So they look quite sandy on the top bits of their body, and then on their limbs and their tail, they tend to have quite dark bands. So kind of looks like a house cat, but not quite.
And the hair, it looked like at the beginning of a clip, it was certainly alerting to something. You could see the cat trying to use its stealth as much as it could, but those big ears on the hair, it's hard for any noise to to pass them by. So they're again, I love watching how each animal is adapted in its own way to making a living. And you look at a hare and it has a few obvious defenses. One of them is just its ability to run away. But those ears, like that's kind of like I sometimes I wish I had ears like that. Not the appearance of them, it would be weird, but but be able to have that sort of hearing, I think that would be quite incredible.
I mean, I agree with you if I could switch it on and off.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Mindy, you say if you didn't know better, you'd think it's somebody's pet. Yeah, absolutely. It kind of does look a lot like a house cat, but not as friendly as a house cat. We are out of time, everyone, but I thought we could have a look at our last clip and then we could say goodbye. How's that, Mike?
Sounds good to me.
All right. To Simbavati Waterside. There we go. And just have fun. Look at this baby. I love how baby elephants, especially when they lose their minds near a water hole and they're feeling really safe, they'll still make sure they lose their minds very close to their mouth. It's still too small to be able to use its trunk properly, so you see it dipping down every now and then to get a drink.
It's just shoving its face in the water.
Yeah. Little baby has to drink like you and me, unfortunately, until it gets control of that trunk. Oh no.
This is fun to watch. It's so great to see animals just having fun and experiencing a bit of joy in their life.
Absolutely. And it also reminds me or makes me feel like this animal feels so safe to just kind of lose itself and having fun without any particular purpose. It must it must feel nice and safe. And off it goes. What a lovely way to end our time together today. Those are some really cool clips, some perplexing clips, um, but interesting things for us to study when we get into the bush. Hey, Mike, when you come visit us?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so these are always fun. Again, I don't know much about the animals in Africa, so I enjoy asking you a lot of inane questions and learning more about yeah, your world over there.
Absolutely. And I think, we've got to get you over and then we can actually go through the bush together.
Yeah, that'd be great. Go find some snakes or something.
Oh yeah, we'll find so many things.
Okay.
Chameleons, snakes, we'll do it all.
All right.
And we'll invite all of you too, everyone. You can see us through the camera, maybe. Well, thanks for your questions and your comments. And thank you, Mike, so much for joining us. It is always a huge pleasure and privilege to have you with us.
You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
See you next time, everyone. Bye for now.